triumphant return. You're coming so soon. This world has nothing for me. I find my peace and joy solely in you. Only in you. I want the world to see you're alive and living well in me. Let me be a part of the harvest, for the days are few. You're coming soon. So people get ready, Jesus is coming soon. We'll be going home. People get ready, Jesus is coming to take from the world his own. People get ready, Jesus is coming soon. We'll be going home. People get ready, Jesus is coming soon. We'll be going home. We'll be going home. There's a day that comes when we will be divided right and left. For those who know him, those who do not know, and those who know him well will meet him in the air. Hallelujah. God is with us. And those who do not know, they will hear depart. I knew you not. For my friends, you see, there will be a day when we'll be counted. So knowing well, knowing well. People get ready, Jesus is coming soon. We'll be going home. People get ready, Jesus is coming to take from the world his own. People get ready, Jesus is coming soon. We'll be going home. People get ready, Jesus is coming to take from the world his own. To take his own, take his own, to take his own, take his own. We'll be going home. We'll be going home. We'll be going home. We'll be going home. Oh yeah. For my friends, you see, there will be a day when we'll be counted. So knowing well, knowing well. Hey, people get ready, Jesus is coming soon. We'll be going home. People get ready, Jesus is coming to take from the world his own. People get ready, Jesus is coming soon. We'll be going home. People get ready, Jesus is coming to take from the world his own. People get ready.
Hello. Welcome to Ask the Watchman, and thank you for coming, Deborah. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am good. Okay. To anybody in the chat, hopefully there won't be any internet issues. I'm at a remote location. If there are, hang in there. I'll see if I can rejoin. Hopefully there won't be. Also have had microphone issues in the past. It's very difficult for two people to know if one's louder than the other. So if you sense that I'm really louder than Deborah or vice versa, if you could just let us know that, that would be great, and I will try to make the necessary adjustments. So so we have Deborah from Speaking the Truth in Love channel, and one of the reasons that I'm kind of shifting gears here, and I'm going to do more of this, is because there is an awful lot out there that we all hear all the time that is prompting us to be ready to run away from this place. So I think maybe it's time to also talk more about not so much what we're running from, but what we have to look forward to. So I asked Deborah to come when I heard her video, which we will get to soon, but not immediately, about her dream of the millennium, because it struck a lot of familiar chords with me, and I'm absolutely convinced that it is legitimate, genuine vision that God gave her. So, and Deborah just dropped off, and let's see, hopefully she'll be able to resolve that quickly. I was just about to ask her her first question. Okay, there she is. Okay, you're back. Deborah, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I think I'm paused or something.
Okay, yeah, you dropped off for a second, and now you're back. So, first question I wanted to ask you, how did you wake up, as it were, to the end times? Your testimony on becoming a end times enthusiast.
Okay, so just so I understand, am I back because my thing shows it's like frozen?
I believe you seem fine to me.
Okay,
mine both seem fine in the chatters. Okay.
Okay, well, everything looks frozen to me, but I'll keep talking if you can see me.
Everything looks good to me.
Yeah, it's all frozen for me. Maybe let me just double check something. 1 second.
Okay. Okay, the chatters are saying it's fine.
Okay, everything is completely frozen for me, but I'll talk as long as you can see me. Okay, so,
okay.
Yeah, so what was your question again? Sorry.
So, yeah, well, a lot of people in Christian forums will ask people their testimony on getting saved. I'm asking your testimony on becoming a person who's enthused about the rapture, the end times, and end times. What is your end times wake up moment?
Yeah, so basically okay, sorry, I hope everything's okay. My phone's completely black. Oh, there, it's fixed. Okay. Whoa, 1 second. My phone went completely dead. Okay.
Well, it's lying to you because you look great to us.
Yeah, I basically. Oh, okay, because it was completely black. Okay, so I woke up to everything because of my twins. Did you want to talk about that story
absolutely.
Right now?
Sure.
Yeah. Yes. So basically, I have 4 children, and my youngest 2 are twins. And when they were around 2 years old, they started losing their speech. They were fully verbal up until 2, completely neurotypical development. And then at 2, they started losing all their words. They were speaking in sentences. And finally, by 3 years old, we got them diagnosed with autism. And so me and my husband were searching for a long time to figure out, why were they so developing normally for 2 years? And then that happened. Why weren't they born that way? Even my own doctor was completely confused. So I looked into regressive autism, and I personally see that, and this is like obviously a taboo topic, but it was a taboo topic a long time ago, that I believe they had an immunization injury. And when that happened, I said, God, like, why didn't you warn me? Like, everybody gets their kids immunized, and I didn't realize this was a thing. And there's no proof, but when I started digging deeper, I realized a lot of other kids have had this happen where they just stopped talking. And anyway, so long story short, God started to tell me that I believe he was showing me that we're in these end days, and somehow their immunization injury would be linked to end times. And now they're 8. So I knew this, somehow there'd be a link to end times, which I wasn't at all interested in. I'm not interested. I was a Christian for a long time, but you know, in churches, they kind of stopped talking about end times. They stopped talking about the book of Revelation. And I, like in youth group, I used to always learn about, you know, the rapture and all this kind of stuff. But then as I got older, they just stopped talking about it. So it was just not on my mind. So I just feel like God connected those dots and said, you know, somehow your girls, what happened to them is going to be linked to end times. And I felt like he said to me, many lives are going to be saved through what I allowed. He allowed, and that it would end. He promised me it would end. But it's been all these years and we're still dealing with it. But he, along the way, step by step, he's been revealing more mysteries to me and my husband. And I just started on the journey of, what do you mean end times? Like, what is this? And then I realized, okay, there's a thing called the second coming. Then I realized there's a rapture, or harpazo, whatever word people like to use. And
Right.
yeah. So I realized that, and now that we're in the situation that we're in, I'm like, how could I have linked that injury to end times so many years ago? How could there be anything? And I don't talk about it much on my channel anymore, just because I've been given strikes and stuff like that. But I don't, you know, anyway, I don't say anything that's too like controversial, except something went very wrong right after a certain immunization. And yeah, I don't see how I could have linked it to the Lord's return. It just seems impossible that it's kind of, you know, happening now. There's some link.
Yeah. Well, there's supernatural links with a lot of things that it seems like people that are eager for Jesus to return just automatically seem to know, particularly when it comes to this subject of things, words I don't want to say because of strikes, etc. Badge, I'll say JAB, spelled backwards. And it's almost supernatural. And when when you listen to, there's a lot of Christians who don't care about the rapture, don't talk about the rapture. Oh, they trust the doctors. They trust, just trust. What is the connection? There seems to be a connection. I think it's supernatural, just the elect not being deceived, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I also have dealt with very similar issues. My youngest is 8. We adopted him through foster care, and he had to have all that stuff for the first year before we really had custody. And there's a difference, and I know it's linked to that. So.
Yeah, and there are children who are born with special needs and stuff like that from, you know, lots of different things like Down syndrome and many things, but regressive autism is actually really different, where they're developing normal until a certain age and then they completely revert, which this is more in the modern age. It was unheard of in the past. Yeah, so we knew something was very strange and wrong. And yeah, definitely then it links to the next thing that happened to me that I think we're going to talk about, which is my eldest daughter's dream. Because at first when I was like, well, it's about end times, like I thought we were just gonna have to live till we were 80 years old like this, and this is how it was gonna be. And then the Lord's saying, something's coming, things are changing, and what's happened to your girls is gonna be linked to the beast rising out of the sea. And I'm like, what? So when I finally researched stuff, and then what happened with my daughter is the next thing that really started making me think, okay, this is happening. We're the generation.
Wow. Wow, that is amazing and good news. He promises that he restores the years the locusts have eaten. And I would consider all those years with their minds not functioning properly. It all falls under that category of what the locusts have eaten. Whether it's the devil, this world directly like this, or even just stupid mistakes we make because we're young, etc. So many things would fall into that category, and I believe that we're all going to see a lot of restoration of things the years the locusts have eaten. So
yeah, it's a theft. It's a theft. The enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and it's a type of theft because it robbed all of us of so many things. Like the last time I remember them saying "mommy" was when they were 3, and now they're 8. I haven't heard them say "mommy" in all that time, and I don't want to make it about that, but I like our conversation. But that was the eye-opening part, and I don't see how could I have linked those two events. Many people, they may link immunization injuries. I use that word immunization because that should be okay.
Mhm.
They link that to autism, but they don't link it with end times. That's the
Mhm.
one puzzle piece that I don't see often, and I wouldn't have done. It was supernatural.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
I know that the enemy is working overtime even just to suppress the truth on the end times. He doesn't like the rapture. I think he's got moles among us, regurgitating the same garbage. Oh, the word rapture is not in the Bible, and all the stuff you hear about over and over again. Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah. So anyway, yeah, you then you began talking about, your daughter had a vision of the second coming 7 years ago,
Yeah.
2014.
2014, which I think is significant that it was that year. The twins were about 2. That's when everything started going wrong. And it was probably later in the year because I remember where we were living and they were closer to 3. So we had been living in this confusing world for almost a year of what's happening to them. And
Mhm.
then I remember one night all the kids were sleeping and my daughter and son slept in the same room because she was maybe 6 or 7 and he was like 4 or something. So they were in bunk beds and I was in my bed. It was the middle of the night. She came into my room and stood by my bed. So she's 6 or 7 and said, "Mommy, there's a man in my room," or "There was a man in my room." And I just jumped up, of course. And I was like, "What? What do you mean a man?" She goes, "There was a man in my room." And a 6 or 7-year-old, when they have a bad dream, they're not calm.
Mhm.
Usually they're like upset, they're crying or something.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
went to run in the room and then she immediately calmed me. She said, "No, Mommy, he's gone now." And I said, "What do you mean?" "Oh, you were dreaming." I told her, "You're dreaming." She goes, "No, he was really in my room." And I said, "Well, what do you mean? You probably were dreaming about what happened." And then she said, "Well, he was a man in white." And then I said, and I have to preface this by saying I did not know about end times at this point. So I was I would say mature, solid Christian, and I knew obviously the book of Revelation, but I just didn't remember, I hadn't read it in a really long time, that part, like the second coming or dressing in white or any of the details.
Mhm.
So I said, okay, what happened? And then she said, "Well, he showed me something." He sat by my bed and he showed me something. And I said, "What did he show you?" And she said, "He just pointed at the sky and like there was a projection, like a movie in her room of people all dressed in white on white horses, all riding on white horses." But this is the crazy, like I didn't know what that meant at all. So it's not like, you know how some people are like, "Oh, you coaxed your child," or they've
Uh-huh.
heard it before. None of us had
Mhm.
spoke of this ever. Never.
Wow.
So I was like, "Really?" Like that's how, if I heard that now, I would be more like, "That's the second coming." But no, then I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then she said, "Yeah, and he just wanted to show it to me." And I said, "Are you afraid?" And she said, "No, I'm not afraid." She has never talked like that in I've never heard any of my kids talk this way. It was like she was so calm. So I walked her back to her room. I lied her down, tucked her, and I was more afraid than her because I was thinking, "What was this?" And I just kept it in my heart. I just held it in my heart and all these years remembered it. But it was years later, like several years, until I knew that in the second coming, we're on white horses and we're in white. I didn't know. So there's absolutely no way that she could have been, it was planted in her head. So
Mhm.
that was my second big experience. And it was all around the same time. And that's also why I'm a big believer in the whole 2014 to 2021 time period being like a 7-year preparatory period.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That is very, very interesting for sure. And yeah. So do you remember about what time of year it was?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm lucky I even remember the dream at all, or what
Okay.
happened. And it wasn't a dream. She said and I kept saying, "You were dreaming." And she said, "I was wide awake. I was looking at him and he was talking to me by my bed." So I don't remember anything else because it
Okay.
meant nothing. Like at the time, it honestly did not, white people on white horses, white man, man dressed in white.
That's why. Yeah.
It didn't mean, yeah, it didn't mean
Mhm.
anything. So I'm lucky I remember it all, but I know the Lord saved it in my heart so
Wow.
that when I did understand what it was, I would be like, "Whoa."
That that is huge. I know that when I interviewed L.A. Marzulli, I wanted to ask him because he had a vision similar of a white horse flying on a white horse. He shared it years ago with Bob Barber. It's on my channel, and he talked about how he said that he was on a horse, and he said that I remember him saying he knew that this horse would never let him fall. And
Wow.
and he said he remembered where he was in these ranks and such. And yeah, so that's amazing. I love that. Well, my icon is a man on a white horse for that reason.
Oh yeah, that's right. And I mean, honestly, now it would be so huge, but I honestly, it meant nothing at the time, which to
Yeah.
me is again proof in my heart that it was from God, because these are all things that I can't make up. I can't
Right.
if I knew about them, I could say, well, she probably heard me say it, and she had a dream, and but even I didn't know what it meant for probably another 2 years so that was 2014. So yeah, no, I actually probably didn't know what it was till probably 2018, sadly to say.
Wow. No,
Mhm.
that adds validity. So that's
Right.
awesome. Okay. And one more before we get to your millennium vision. The Lord pointed something out to you regarding the parable of the barren fig tree and the last generation.
Right. So I one day randomly, again, these all are such random things. And so I can't remember if I think I was reading the Bible or something. It was related, but I wasn't reading about the barren fig tree at all. Or I don't remember exactly how it all came to pass, but I just remember all of a sudden just jumping up out of my seat and saying, wait a minute, this parable is related. I believe the Lord was showing me at that moment the parable was related to the time that we're in. So the parable of the barren fig tree is the one where there is the vineyard owner or whatever. I'm more paraphrase. I'm not perfect with details, but I'm sure people know what it is. And there's a tender to the tree, the barren tree, the fig tree. And we know Israel is obviously linked to being the fig tree.
Yes.
And that tree bears no fruit, for the owner comes and says, the tree's not bearing fruit. The caretaker of the tree said, well, I've dug around it. I've tried to make it bear fruit for 3 years, and it hasn't bore any fruit. And the owner said, well, dig around it and dung it this one last year. And then if it doesn't bear fruit, then cut it down. And basically, I've heard that parable before, but at the time, this was probably about 2 or 3 years ago, maybe about almost 3 years ago, that it just almost came to me that I don't know why, out of nowhere, that 2017 to 2021, I believe, was those 3 years. And 2017 to 2020, and then 2020 to 2021 was the year of dunging it or doing more to it. Now, at the time, recently, I've heard more people talking about it, but I have videos from almost 2 years ago where I'm saying, this is something, I have a video called Cut It Down and things like that, where basically no one was really talking about it that I had heard, but I mean, maybe others were, but it was just so random that it just came to me. And that's another reason why I really think this time period is, sorry, I hear children yelling in the background. I hope you guys don't hear it. There's people yelling. Okay. If you can't hear it,
it's not here.
Okay. So yeah, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so basically, okay, it kind of links to the 2014 vision of my daughter, because I always looked at those 2 cows that were born with the 7 on their forehead? I don't know if you remember that.
I think so.
So basically in 2014 or 2015, it was around the Shemitah year. I wasn't in end times or anything like that back then, but basically there was these 2 cows born with a 7 on their forehead, and clear 7. And it was a big deal back then. And it was around the tetrads. I think a lot of things just started up around 2014, 2015.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the tetrads, 2014. That's right.
Yes. And that's when she had the vision. And I just felt like it's like the Joseph, 7 years preparing, the cows, there were these 2 cows. And in Joseph's, in Pharaoh's dream, he saw 2 cows. And one was to prepare there was the time of preparation, and then there was the time of the famine. And I feel like these 7 years from 2014 to 2020 would be 2014 to 2021, or is it 2020? Now I have to calculate. And 2021.
Yeah.
Yes, would be preparatory years. And instead of prepping, I have my prepper stash of food, I would say it's prepping a harvest of souls, of harvesting, like, you're preparing a different thing. And then the last 7 years is where that harvest is going to come into fruition, whether it be in the tribulation, where tribulation saints come to know, because all the seeds you planted this time, they harvest in the tribulation, or some will be believed beforehand and be raptured. So I feel like there's that time period. And then back to the barren fig tree, I think something really strong happened in 2017, like that Revelation 12 sign. Again, I wasn't even watching End Times, but I think that was huge. And I think that was, this could be, and that's another thing I want to say. I think, I feel, these are things I cannot prove, and I could be wrong. But everything else I do back by scripture. I'm not just, I don't know. We can't be 100%. But there's a lot of things that Christians have, through the Holy Spirit, kind of felt premonition in advance, and it has been right. So I just like to share it. And I think, so 2014 was a key time around the tetrads and the two cows, relating to Joseph's dream. And then 2017 was the Revelation 12 sign, and really kicked off what could be the 3 years of the barren fig tree trying to wake up, pretended to, which is Israel. They had Trump, and I don't know, somehow he's linked to that, and I don't know how or why, but that was a time where maybe that was a time, instead of turning to God, they turned to Trump, to be honest. If I'm allowed to say the word Trump, I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe instead of turning to God, they kind of put a lot of trust in him. And then maybe 2020 was the year where they really did get pummeled. I mean, Israel really had a hard time in the pandemic, like worse than most countries, just because their government was so strict. And anyway, so maybe that was their last chance. And then 2020 to 2021, that's the dunging it year or what have you. And then 2021 to 2028 could be the last 7 years, and would all fit with my daughter's dream, with me, what happened with my twins and the timeline, and it fits all nicely with all of that. But that's a personal thing, and I'm not, we don't know, but it really could be.
Absolutely, it could be. And thank you so much for sharing. It's such a huge blessing to all of us. He gives us personal things. He gives us things to share, and it's hard to know, what you should share and what you shouldn't. But as we get closer to the end, I feel there's things that I've kept in that I'm sharing now more than I have in the past, leading to, and I discussed this with Wackadoodle Simone, and I'm going to discuss it more again in detail next week with Tyler from Generation 2434. He will be here. He's also had a Millennium Dream, and I don't have an exact day yet, but he's going to come on with me, and I'm going to discuss mine in more detail. I'll kind of go over quickly now to leave time for yours. But so I did have a genuine, I know it was real, and so many things you said just clicked with me. It was in 2004, 17 years ago. I was going through a very rough time in my life, and God gave me a vision, which a lot of it didn't make sense at the time because of my limited knowledge of the millennium, governing in the millennium, ruling and reigning. I didn't know anything about that stuff. But I had a dream. It could have been in heaven. It could have been back on the new or during the millennium, but I was in a government building. I was indoors the whole time, and it was a government meeting, and I was meeting. I was amazed at how great of physical condition I was in. My clothes were super high quality. The love in the room that people have for each other was just, you could feel it. It was amazing. It was wonderful. I never wanted to leave. When I woke up, I was just so upset that I wasn't there anymore. It was, and so anyway, it was, and this is how I got to call on you, Deborah. I was going to sleep. I was tired, and I had my phone, and I was just sleeping. And I found your video of your Millennium Dream. I started listening to it, and I'm about to fall asleep, and all of a sudden you said some things. I started, what? And I just got wide awake. I couldn't, so many things you said were clicking with me, especially when you said the words, you said, I knew my brain could not have made this up. Yeah. And that's exactly verbatim what I've been saying to myself over the years. It was like, I want to question, how could this be? Am I going to be in some government or something? But I kept saying, I know my brain could not have made this up, especially when I started finding corroboration in the Bible.
Right.
So if you don't mind, if you could share that from the beginning, your dream, your vision of the millennium.
Okay, yeah. So similar in that way that you're saying your brain can't make it up. And just like you were saying, it was things you weren't aware of even.
Mhm.
So yeah, I at this point, so I was awake to end times and I understood the basic things, but I hadn't really been thinking too much about the millennial reign, that's for sure. Because people don't talk about that too much. They talk
Mhm.
about like heaven and our new homes there and stuff like that. But
Right.
yeah, so okay, let me try. I don't have the best of memories anymore, but let me try.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
yeah. So basically, it started with I just saw myself walking through a street. Oh no, I gotta back it up. No, it started off with me what felt like flying over a field. That's right. So I don't know if I was flying because I didn't see me. I just was, it was like drone footage. Like I was just soaring, but it could have just been the Lord was showing me. Like I'm not trying to say we can fly because that's what I think people might think, like, oh, we can fly. Maybe, I don't know. But like in the millennial reign, I just know I could see, I think he wanted to show me the vastness of the earth.
right.
Where like the vastness as in, sorry, it was empty, like, but full of beauty of the natural earth. Like I love nature and I just love nature. So
Mhm.
it was just that there wasn't the apartments, there wasn't cement, there was no streets, no highways, nothing, just on and on of fields. I think I saw forests and other things, but just nothing modern. And it was just so, I think what he was just showing me was there's going to be a lot of room and not that much people. Like,
If I,
mhm,
if I could pause you for 1 second right there.
sure.
I know that I have always believed, as almost all of us do, based on Revelation chapters 20 and then in 21, that there'll be 1,000-year millennium, and then Satan is released, blah, 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 white throne judgment, and then there's a new heaven and a new earth. But
Right.
Yaku from God's Roadmap to the End pointed out both in his videos and here, he believes and makes a pretty strong case that the chronology isn't necessarily in chronological order. He believes that,
Yeah,
that
you
we're going to
mentioned.
have a new earth first, and then the millennium will actually start on a new earth. So what I was wondering is if you had a feel for whether or not that may have been a whole new earth.
So yeah, I know I have to check out what he was saying. Obviously I'm of the initial viewpoint, like you said, but I mean, I'm always open to listening if there's,
Okay.
other thoughts and stuff. So all I got the feeling of is he made things better and new. So it seemed like this earth, definitely, but it was definitely renewed. It was definitely revived. There was definitely structures removed and nothing bad left. So I can say that for sure. I don't know if I had the feeling that it was a new earth. If it was a new earth, it was just like this earth, but much, much better. So could
Right.
have been, definitely. And that's the thing too, is I was like, was I in heaven or was I in earth? Because people sometimes say they get to heaven and they're in a field. Like I've heard people say when they reach heaven, they get, first they're in a field,
Mm,
and
I've
then
heard
they go to
that.
like a heavenly city. So I don't know if in heaven there's grass and stuff like that. I really felt like it was the earth, but
Mm.
again, I can't be sure. But I definitely felt like it was the earth. Whether it was the new earth, I'm trying to think if I saw water, because I think in the new earth there's no water, if I'm correct. I think
Mm,
it said something like there'd be the one stream in the middle that would there'd be the
yeah, there's something about there not being any more sea, I
sea,
think.
right?
But I've also
Yeah,
heard teachings that doesn't literally mean there is no bodies of water, and just it kind of means
so it's hard to know.
no vast, empty,
Mhm.
useless areas. I think, or something more symbolic, perhaps. I don't know. I mean,
Right.
I hope there's a sea. I think the sea is beautiful.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I can't remember if I saw any water. So I mean, so I would say it was definitely super renewed and revived, but it definitely felt like this earth. And the thing I loved about it, it really felt like how it is now. Like a lot of people think heaven or how we're going to be is so different than
Mhm.
now. And there will be amazing differences, I'm sure. But I think one thing that's amazing is he made us the way we are and this earth because he did love it. He loves
Mhm.
this earth. He loves trees. He loves grass. He loves the sky. Like, I'm sure it'll be much different. But I think even in church, I didn't want to think about heaven. Like before this, I didn't want to think about that stuff because it seemed freaky to me. Like, I'm like, are we going to be sitting on clouds? Like, are we bored I always was afraid of being bored.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, are we gonna be playing harps?
Yeah. I
Are we
remember.
gonna just be
Yeah, Dr. Larry Ollison, who is supposed to come on here at some point. He wrote books about heaven and such, and he said that most people, and this might be more of the older generation like me and up, get their impression of heaven from Tom and Jerry cartoons, where the cat dies and sits on a cloud playing a harp. And it just seems so boring. Yeah,
that's so true.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think it is like from Tom and Jerry, and or any of the ones where the cartoons where the thing dies and then their little spirit goes up, and yeah, they always have wings. They're sitting on a cloud. They play a harp, and I'm like, I literally was afraid of heaven. I really was. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny. I don't really hear it talked about at church really much, and or in any fun way. That's for sure. Right. And see how you're saying about the government meeting. I mean, that's fun and that's interesting and it's adventurous and it's, you know, you have a job and, you know, I don't know. Since I've been in this community on YouTube and learning about end times and studying the Bible for myself, it seems way more fun and I can't wait. Anyway, so yeah, I just remember thinking he loves our bodies. He loves this earth. Like he made it this way. He intended for us to be in the garden, Adam and Eve as they were. And nothing's wrong with that. And I think people want it to be, some people want it to be different maybe, or think it'll be different, but it will be obviously better and perfect. But I think this stuff is great. I just really love the planet, but I don't love the world and I don't want to be here right now. That's for sure. Yep. I don't mind a 7-year break.
Yeah. Nice vacation.
I don't mind leaving for a while.
That's true. Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that what I sensed is that my mission. I don't want to sidetrack you too much. Or at least that mission of that government was particularly American, and I sense that there are others. And one of the primary objectives of these governments is going to cultivate, preserve, and nurture the cultures, because God loves variety. Yes. He loves the different cultures. Where Satan, he wants to mix it all together and just make everything the same. Yeah, and I think one of the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to their theology, when they guess about heaven, is they tend to think that everything's the same, everything's flat and even, and we're all the same. But I think there's going to be a lot of variety amongst people, amongst nations, amongst all different kinds of things like that.
Well, I've even heard, which freaked me out, I've even heard that we're all men. Like we all just inevitably become men. There's no, and I was like, for a while that like freaked me out a little. I was just saying, could that be true? Because somebody a long time ago explained why that made the most sense. And sure, okay, I guess, but that didn't seem right either.
There's no way.
Okay, because to this day I was like, I'm not sure, but that's not what I saw. So.
No. It's not what I saw either. I saw, and I've heard this in many times, and I've read a lot of books on near-death experiences, et cetera, and it's tons of corroborating evidence that men are men. I don't mean to sound like Archie Bunker, but men are men and women are women. You know, and men are masculine; they dress masculine, and women are very feminine, and there's no blurry areas at all. And what I saw, like in the government meetings, is that the women were all dressed very elegantly, very beautifully, and the men are all very masculine. So
right, and I think because it says we'll be like the angels. The person said there's no female angels, so we're gonna be. I mean, it didn't say we're gonna be literally duplicate to the angels. So, and I don't know if they're female. I've never heard of any.
I think the angels are masculine. However, and that's something that we could talk about for a long time. There's a scripture where the Sadducees, who were essentially atheists, that's why they're sad, you see, they were basically trying to trip Jesus up with a conundrum, with a paradox. Well, if a woman's married to several different brothers, blah blah blah, at the resurrection, whose wife is she? And they think they got him in this gotcha. Now, like you said, I heard you say this in your video that Jesus does speak a lot of times in code, especially when he's dealing with a nemesis like these guys were being. And we know, for example, that when Jesus spoke to the Pharisees, when Jesus said, "You tear down this temple, I'll rebuild it in 3 days." The Bible tells us he was talking about his body, but the Pharisees thought he was talking about the building. Jesus knew the Pharisees thought he was talking about the building. So it was almost like he was lying. Well, God can't lie, I know, but he was purposely deceiving them with code. So when he's retorting these smart aleck Sadducees, who are really they're really just scum politicians. The only reason they were involved in the church is because the church was the government, and if you wanted to be a politician hack, but yet you were still an atheist, then you were a Sadducee. It's kind of, that's, I'm sure there's more to it than that. So these guys are trying to get him with like a, like a paradox or some sort. So he said in the resurrection, there people won't be married or given in marriage. Those are terms that were meant for a legal arranged marriage. There's a lot of different ways that you can negate that. So
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yep. That he's saying that doesn't mean you won't have any close relationships. It'll mean like there's no need for like a legal contract of some sort. And I think that's when he mentioned about, what did he say, will be like the angels? That's when he mentioned it.
And then he did say something that will be like the angels. Yeah, I don't remember the exact quote now. It's in a few of the Gospels.
Yeah. So,
but
yeah. Well, so anyway, not to get too sidetracked, but those are all things that I was contemplating to myself. Where was I when I woke up? Was I in heaven? Was I on earth? What, I was still a woman. So, that was interesting. But anyway, so I was flying over the field, and I think it was just to show me the vastness and to show me, okay, a lot of things will be cleared out and it won't be the modern stuff anymore, and nature, it's nature. So then I found myself almost just transported into a village, and the thing that I noticed, it felt like a large city, but it was basically all cobblestone. And the thing that I really love that, and I noticed that it was brand new cobblestone. So if you go to, any of these ancient cities, like anywhere like Italy, Greece, or in the Middle East or whatever, yes, it's cobblestone still, but those are like known as their old cities, their, archaeological places, and they look old, even though they're still nice and really nice to see. But this was looked like it had just been built. And I'm thinking, well, if it's new, wouldn't it be cement? Wouldn't it be metal and steel? But no, that's new there. So I don't know who built it or how it got there, but that was pretty nice. And it was just never ending corridors. And the thing that's crazy is I actually, because I don't film myself that often, because it's just a little bit more of a hassle for me, I'll just put walking videos or whatever. And I used a video on my Millennial Rain Dream video, I used a video of walking through Israel. And as I just found one on a free video of somebody walking through Israel, and the corridors and everything, it brought back all the memories. It was just like my dream. I didn't know there was these corridors, meaning it's just there's high walls on either side of you, all made of cobblestone. And it was exactly what I was doing in the dream. And I just never knew it was like that. So that was more confirmation. It was really reality. Anyway, but new. So I was walking through and I was just so fast. And that's what I remember too, just feeling like I was just so almost gliding. I could just walk so fast, and I was just going, I just had so much energy. And what else? So I was walking all around, and I knew I had somewhere I was trying to be. That's another thing too. I had a place to be. That's the thing. It wasn't boring. I knew I had a job or something. So I was excited to go there, wherever it was. It was just all a knowing. And as I was going, I think I said in my dream, I saw Jesus. So one time I was just walking around, and I was going up and down stairs and through corridors, and I just had this place to be. And I looked to the side and I saw Jesus, and he had a group around him of people, and they were laughing and joking, and just like how we are now, and that's why I wanted to keep saying in my dream, it wasn't awkward. Because it's well, it's going to be awkward. You're talking to God. It's going to be weird, you think, or whatever. And I remember just the way he was joking around and laughing, and it was you could just talk to him like your normal self, and everybody was just touching him and hugging him, and he was laughing, but it wasn't overdone either. It was just, I don't know, everywhere he walked, this group would just go with him. And I remember thinking in my head, oh, I'm going to hang out with Jesus later. But I'd never thought him at all it was I have to go hang out with Jesus, or I must worship him every moment of the day. I thought, well, I have my meeting, my thing I'm getting to, and then I'll go hang out with him later. It was so just casual, but perfect, and no pressure, and there was just no bad thoughts. Another thing, see, the little details that I know I'll forget is these little things that matter was the weather and how I felt. I could feel the wind hitting me, but in the most perfect way. And that's another thing. I've never been in a dream, I don't think, where I felt the weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. In fact, in the description of this video, I posted it somewhere. I have 8 now, a list of 8 ways you can kind of discern the difference between a regular dream and something that's an actual vision dream. And that's one of them. And I experienced that once. I did have a dream where I was raptured, and I was raptured through clouds, like rain clouds, and I got wet and I could feel the icy water. You don't feel that in a regular dream. You don't feel literal, unless in real life somebody's pouring water on you or something. You don't really feel that. So yeah, that's another indicator that's genuine.
Absolutely true. I've never felt any feeling. I know people say when like if they're a kid and they wet the bed, they're dreaming like they're in a pool or something. I don't know, but I haven't had that one. Yeah. So I've never had it where I felt like the wind blowing or anything like that. And I remember I just kept through the whole dream, my head just kept saying, I'm literally never leaving this place. Like, I don't care what happens, I'm never moving. Because I had moved a couple times prior to that, and I don't like moving. Like, I don't like moving. So I remember, I don't know in my head if I was thinking like I had moved or I don't know. I just know the main thing is I don't like moving. But that one time I was like, I don't care what happens, I'm literally never leaving here. But I don't know why I didn't know that I wasn't leaving here. It was just, I think the Lord wanted to put that thought in my head to think, you're going to love it that much where you are. So I just kept thinking, I'm never leaving. This weather is perfect. It's just so perfect. I love it. And I can't ever leave this place. And so I was walking around, and actually somebody in the comments just asked me today or yesterday, I saw a comment on the dream video. Someone new watched it and said, what were you wearing? And I know I was wearing a white t-shirt and pants. Now, I think people think, I guess everybody's going to wear a dress, like the long robe thing, and we only get the one white robe. Maybe, I don't know why I was wearing that. I don't know why, but I was dressed normal. Like, not normal, but like, it was just like plain pants. I can't remember the pants too much, but I was like a white t-shirt. So I wasn't in a dress. Maybe in heaven, I'll be in a dress, or I don't know. But at that time, it was normal. I do remember Jesus was in a robe, though. So yeah, but the people around him, I don't recall thinking everybody's in a robe. So I'm not sure why. But I think, people have had, like your dream, you were really regally dressed. In mine, I was super casual.
Yeah, well, I think it depends on the occasion. Yeah.
Right. And it was just occasions. Right. You were going to a special meeting, and did you say you were thinking you were in the millennial reign or heaven?
I've always thought it was heaven, because I know it was the very first meeting of this, and I was meeting people for the first time, yet it was like I knew them. So it was our first meeting. So from that, I surmised that we were in heaven, and we were getting ready to, this is our first meeting that we're going to, for our government, that will be on earth when we go there. But I mean, I guess it could have actually been on the earth. I don't know. The whole thing took place indoors in this building.
Right.
And I was dressed in like a nice 3-piece Italian suit kind of a thing. It was just super
so not a robe.
Quality. No, this was not a robe.
Yeah, and I think everybody thinks you're gonna be in this robe, which I get why, but because of the movies, I suppose. So anyway,
and I was clean shaven too. I wasn't like a beard or anything like that.
I think because God does love order and neatness and cleanness, and but He also loves natural things. Like, I mean, I just think it's just going to really surprise us in a good way how it's all going to go down. But yeah, that sounds like heaven. But anyway, so for me, I was in what felt like casual clothes, because I was like on a mission and but not, it was going to be like an informal meeting. But the people I knew I had to meet, it was my group. So I had this group, and I knew I was going to meet them possibly for the first time, but it felt like I just knew who everyone was. Like everything is like this knowing that it was fine and I'm just going to know them, but I hadn't met with them yet forever. Like this would be the first time. And so I was walking all around, I saw Jesus, and I thought I'll hang out with him later. And then as I'm like trying to get to my group, I walk into a woman, like straight, we just meet face to face, and she stops, and I just know it's almost like a checkpoint, like in a video game, when you're like, okay, this is the person you talk to now. So I was like, okay, I talked to this woman. So I stood there, and she was like, and she said, oh, you got to get to your group. You got to get there. And I was like, yep, I'm on my way. And then I said, oh, by the way, what country am I in, or where am I? And she's like, well, you're in Ireland, of course. So that's why I was like, oh yeah, I'm in Ireland. I'm never leaving Ireland. And I remember just thinking like, this is the best. I'm never leaving Ireland. So then I just went about my way, and I think it ended soon after that. I was just me traveling, walking around. And I think all the little details were to show me what it will be like. I really felt similar to when I was in college. I remember like feeling really so much energy. I was just constant. I had to take a bus to get to my school, and I was just like now I'd be like exhausted, like I'm all these buses and whatever. And so then I was just like, I could take a million buses. I could get home at 11 p.m. and wake up at 6 a.m. and like nothing, you know. And I remember feeling like that, but better. It was just like better. And so, and I did look younger, and I just seemed younger, like not like super young, but you know, like 30 or 20 or something. I don't know, like around those ages.
Yeah, same with me.
Yeah. So then, basically the part that was the confirmation was when I woke up from the dream. I remember thinking, please, I've got to get back there. Like, it was so real. I just couldn't believe I was still alive on earth. Like, a lot of people say that, you know, if they have heavenly dreams, they're like, no. And another thing I remember thinking there was, like, I had no worries about my kids, and I worry about, you know, my kids all the time. Like, you're just always thinking like, oh, what are they doing? What's, like, just constant little things. And I just had no worry. I don't know where they were. I'm sure they were fine, but I had no thoughts about it. And I just remember thinking, I just have no worries. And I remember thinking, I have no worries about money. I have no worries about anything. I don't feel worried about anything. And then when I woke up, it was like this heavy worries all came back, and it was like this dark, gloomy, just heavy. And I was like, oh no, I'm back. Like, and so, yeah. And I mean, I didn't feel sad. I just felt like, whoa, like I know now what it feels like to be completely carefree, and the weather is perfect, and I'm just never ending happy, and I never want to stop. I could do that for eternity. Whereas before, when I thought about heaven, or even like whatever, millennial reign, which I didn't know about, but any of that stuff, I would have thought, I don't know how I'm going to make it through 1 hour, because
it's going to get
like church.
Right.
I like church, but
I know.
Like, yeah.
Right.
A lot of people say, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, a lot of people say, you know, we'll be worshiping, which I, of course, love to worship the Lord, but I just keep thinking of church worship, like singing, or I don't know how it'll be. I'm sure there will be that, but you know, we just think it's going to be like that, and there's so much more. So
absolutely, yeah, I know. I there was a video I just saw recently where they have depictions of heaven, and they show a bunch of people wearing white robes with these like little gold bands. They're all just standing there in worship, and I put a comment. I said, "Don't worry, heaven will not be that boring." You know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one. I mean, and I'm sure there'll be moments like that, but I don't think it's definitely not. Yeah.
It'll be right. It'll be just right. But anything is going to get boring when you do it over and over again. God understands that. He's exciting. He's fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I'll just finish with the confirmations that I got, why I thought it was real. Like when I woke up, I remember thinking, I don't want to ask God if this is real, because it was so good. I just didn't want it to not be real. I thought, well, if it's just a dream that I had, like it was just so, I knew I would just like be able to go on forever just thinking about how good I felt. And I could just like make it through this earth. I could get through, and because I could know what the reward was. Like that's only a piece of it. So anyway, I didn't want to ask God. So a few days later, I was like, you know, I better ask him. So I said, Lord, was that like for real? Is that how it's going to be? Or was that like just me, just a dream? And I remember the thought just popped into my head of look up the weather in Ireland. Yeah. And I was like, and then I delayed on that for days, because I was thinking, what if I look up because I remember feeling like if the weather's good or perfect or whatever, then, you know, it was from the Lord. And I remember thinking, I don't want to see that it's really bad in Ireland. Now, sadly, geography isn't my best. And I didn't know how it was. It could have been, I mean, I thought it was like rainy, maybe like England, like, I don't know. So I was like, who knows? So anyway, I looked it up, and what popped up, I just Googled it, and then it popped up and said, Ireland has the perfect weather. Now, hold on. I know Ireland doesn't have the perfect weather, but literally it said that. Those were the exact words I read. And I guess whatever pulled up first must have pulled that up. And in the comment section, someone even was from Ireland when I had first posted this dream, and they said, I'm from Ireland and it's not perfect. But then they said, you know, in the winter, it could be like 10 degrees. So I know Celsius, not Fahrenheit, but 10 degrees Celsius is like not
I think
that
it's 50.
cold. Okay. And they were like, you know, in winter, it could get as low as that. And I said, like where I'm at in Canada, I'm like, okay, that's like lovely. Like if that's your coldest, worst day, like I'm
Mhm.
okay with that. So, but yes, obviously I wasn't in Ireland. Heaven or the Millennial Reign won't be Ireland. But when I pulled that up, it was total confirmation. I was like, okay, God was confirming that he was saying the weather's going to be perfect where you're going to be, not that it is Ireland. And then, as you know, there was another confirmation because after I pulled it up, I was just really, really happy. And I just talked to the Lord and I was just like, Lord, but why Ireland? Like that, I've literally never really thought about it. I would love to go to Ireland, but it just was not on my mind. And I'm like, why Ireland? And that's when the Lord said to me, or I don't like to say, thus say the Lord or something like that, but like, this is what happened. It was a still small voice inside. And I just heard, because it was Irie land. And for people who have seen my dream, they know what that means. And for people who haven't, basically, I heard it was Irie land. And the word Irie is like a Jamaican term or a West Indian term for, I thought, I didn't know, but I thought it meant happy. I do know a lot of West Indian people. I'm partially West Indian, and I knew that meant like good or happy. So it was happy land or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's funny. That's weird. And I had this inkling, I'm to look up, what does Irie mean? So I was like, okay, so I Googled Irie, and it only came up in the Urban Dictionary because it's like slang for for the Caribbean. And it said Irie means to be at perfect, now I'm paraphrasing, but perfect peace and harmony and in a perfect state of mind. So it wasn't just happy. It was literally like you're in a euphoric, perfect state of mind. I was in this euphoric, perfect land. So how on earth could my brain come up with I'm in Ireland, but it's really Irie land? And like, it took days for me to get this whole thing, because I didn't even want, like I said, I didn't want to ask. I didn't want it to not be true. So yeah, that's how it all came about. And I was in like a euphoric, perfect land.
And that's what Irie means. And there is no single English word that you can equate with Irie.
Right.
So that's why it makes sense. Yeah.
Maybe I didn't even think about that. That's probably why God did that, because just like agape love, like in Greek, I think they say like Greeks have so many words for love, but English only has love.
Right.
And so, there's certain words that other places have like so many words for. And we don't have, like, I was trying to even think of a word for it, but no, there was no other word. That was the word.
Yeah, that is what that means. I went to Jamaica and I remember learning that. So.
Oh, you do know. Okay, yeah, because I'm like, I'm going to put this in the video, and a lot of people are going to be like, what on earth? I've never heard that word before. So, but I knew if I explained it, and then you can Google it for yourself, and it comes up. Like, who can make that up?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I was in Jamaica, and one of the locals was in a canoe, and he's canoeing by the beach, and one of the tourists says, "Hey, do you know what time it is?" And he says, "Time to forget about time, man."
Right. Yeah.
That's Irie. Forget about time. You just soak in the goodness.
Which is like how it's going to be. That is like, I've been to Jamaica as well, and it is like it's a beautiful feeling to not be rushed around, to feel like that. Like time doesn't really matter as much. Just chill out, relax, and think we'll be like that for eternity.
Yeah. And if you get bored with it, there's other things to do, and you'll have engagements and appointments and the perfect job, the job you were made for. Yeah.
I definitely got the sense I had a group, and this was like a group that I was going to be with, and we had like a mission or something to do. I just had a knowing we definitely were going to have this like a powwow, but it was more casual than your like, specific meeting. So like this was, I don't know. I have no idea what we're going to do, but definitely there was stuff to do and things to do. And we weren't bored. That's for sure.
Yeah. Hallelujah. All right. Well, any specific questions in the chat? We can look for that now. I think we pretty much covered everything we had on our riding white horses. We will ride white horses, which I was thinking when you were talking about, you didn't know whether or not you can fly. I was thinking, well, if we can fly, we wouldn't need a flying white horse.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I looked at it. I didn't see myself flying at all. I thought it was like drone footage, like almost like he was just trying to show me like, this is how it is. And I just had a feeling like he took out all the buildings, because during the tribulation one, they're all going to be run down and horrible. And you know, there's going to be nothing evil left, like literally
Right.
nothing. And there's just going to be so much less people too. Look how big our planet is, and it's just going to be for us
Exactly.
and for whoever's, you know, in the millennial reign or however that goes. Mhm.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of lean towards now, thinking that it might be the new Earth, only because why bother to totally clean this one up for just 1,000 more years if you're going to make a new one 1,000 years later? I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
see
It's just
that. I'd have to look into that. I'm trying to think why else it could be that way. I'd have to look into that more because I've never really thought about the chronological order of how that would go.
yeah. Well,
I know because when they say there'll be a new heaven and a new earth and it all burns up,
mhm.
I heard one pastor talk about that will possibly be in the New Jerusalem. And you know how it's a cube, a big city? I've
Yes.
heard someone say that we go in that city while everything's on fire. And then when we come out, it's like the new place. But again, maybe there's something to do with, because after the 1,000 years, then Hades gets thrown into the lake of fire.
Yes.
So I'd have to look into the chronologicalness of that.
Yeah, I've looked at it too. It seems like all that's after the millennium. But yeah, that's so I would, yeah, Revelation 20 and then, or yeah, if you're Revelation 20 and then into 21 is where it talks about new heaven, new earth. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, wow, the time has flown. If there's anything else, if any other questions, we can talk about that. But
I can't even look at the chat because when I tried to do that, that's when everything went black for me. So I'll just let you. I can see it.
okay, not yeah. I've just been scanning it. I don't really see any specific questions. Just general comments and greetings and such. So, well, Deborah, thank you so much for coming on. It's been such a great blessing meeting you and sharing this with you. And you're always welcome to do this anytime. If you ever wanted to come on and chat again, you have an open invitation here. It's been such a blessing, and it's such a blessing to me for sure. Specifically having, because I've had the 17 years I've had this vision, and I've rarely talked about it. And I just started to recently. When I heard yours, it struck so many chords, and also just helped corroborate. Because of the skeptic in you is always trying to think, really, maybe just a great dream. No way, it could not have possibly just been a great dream. My brain could not have made that up. And the Lord is definitely moving in this time. He's showing us more things all the time. He's definitely blessed you with visions, and then of course your child's vision. Absolutely. I mean, I've heard things. I've dismissed a lot of things that I've heard from people, but not yours. I'm absolutely convinced that this is the real thing.
Oh, that's
So,
sweet. Yeah, I don't have any reason. Like that's the other thing too, is usually I find when it's from the Lord, it's like it just has nothing to do with my own mind or desires, or it's usually something I couldn't have dreamt up. And when it's something that seems to align more with, well, that's what I really want. I mean, I do want to have those experiences, but it just, I don't know, like I wouldn't choose for my twins to have gone through that immunization injury and then link it to end times and then all this, like, it's just not something I would ever choose for this order.
right.
Like it just, yeah. So those are the times when I'm like, yeah, it just has God written all over it.
Yes, he restores the years the locusts have eaten. And I know that so many people, they question, how could a good God allow such a horrible thing? We can't wrap our minds around it now, but we will when we see the whole big picture of where it's all going.
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely perfect. I know that his plan is just we can't fathom how wonderful it's going to be.
Right.
So, okay. Well, again, Deborah, thank you for coming. You're welcome anytime. It's great meeting you. God bless you. Thank you so much. And
Thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure.
Okay.
Okay.
Anytime. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.